Hello.
What up?
We have returned from however long it's been.
It's been a fat second. Hold on, let me check.
Eventually we'll do another podcast about something other than things that have come out recently.
Maybe.
Because it's like, we used to do a lot of, like, we would do podcasts on things.
It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been that long.
Yeah, we kind of just keep disappearing for a month and then coming back talking about whatever weird things come out
we will
recently.
do stuff in between things being released.
Hopefully, if we get our act together.
Yeah.
But anyway, today we're talking about Good Omens.
We're late to another party of boys, but we got here.
Just like with Stranger Things, but we finished watching it a couple of days ago. And when we first started watching it, I was like, oh, well, people said it was good, seems pretty interesting, always down for two, like, really conflicting friend characters, so I'm sure it'll be, like, you know, whatever. And when we first started watching it, I was having a good time, but I was just chilling. Yeah. But it's really good, and I demand more.
I know, it's like, at first I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, but, like, you know, whatever. I was like, oh, I want to watch it, I want to finish it, but, like, it wasn't, like, super urgent, which is why we, like, watched, like, one episode and then didn't watch it for a while.
Yeah, we, like, watched one episode, and then I think, we got, like, a couple Marvel movies or something, so we, like, watched those, and then just didn't, like, really get back to it for a while, but then we watched all of it without, like, any, like...
Then we watched the first episode again.
Yeah.
And then we just watched the rest of it.
You know, like people do, because it's really good. It was
I have lost several hours of sleep because of the show this past week.
It's just good, man. Like, who the hell said...
Who gave it the right?
Who gave it the right? And, like, it's kind of like... I can see why it'd be kind of off-putting for some people, because, like, it's really weird, and,
it's a
like...
mess.
It's a really big mess, and, like, there's
total
not a lot
mess.
of, like... A lot of, like, conventional storytelling things, like, the pacing is really weird.
No, the pacing of the show is whack. It's, like, throughout the show they have that, like, going on countdown. It's, like, there's gonna be the apocalypse in a week. And it's, like, it doesn't really feel like that until, like, the last, like, 2 episodes. Because
when it's, like, there's 37 minutes till the apocalypse.
Then it's, like, maybe, like, there's, like, it's, like, there's this countdown, which, like, on every episode it'll just, like, periodically have a sign that says, this amount of time until the apocalypse. Which, like, gives you the impression there's supposed to be, like, a sense of urgency. But there really, like, isn't.
There's really not.
Like, they
not
just
at all.
spend, like, it's, like, 2 days before the apocalypse, and half the episode is just Crowley and Aziraphale's, like, friendship throughout the years, which, to be honest, I could have, like, a whole show of just
That's
that.
all I want. They don't even need to come up with the plot line. Just give me, like, a bunch of episodes of just them having hijinks. It's all I need.
That's basically what the show was, because we've come to the realization after watching it, thinking about it for a bit, that you could probably cut Crowley and Aziraphale out of the show. And the plot would be minimally effective.
Okay, like, here's the thing. Crowley and Aziraphale are the main characters, and I do like all of the characters, and, like, Anathema is pretty rad, but Crowley and Aziraphale, like, 100% steal the show. They were, like, all anybody cares about. They're by far the best characters. I love them dearly, but they don't do jack shit. They don't do one
If
thing.
you cut them out of the show would be shorter, and it would be worse. But the plot would remain unaffected.
I was thinking about it while we were writing this, and literally the only thing that I can think of that they did that actually helped stop the apocalypse was that they indirectly sent Newton to Sheffield.
Right. And
Because they
also...
told that one witch finder whose name I can't remember to go to Sheffield, and then he sent Newton.
Yeah.
And then he teamed up with Anathema, and they
Stopped.
then they stopped nuclear Armageddon. Spoilers, by the way.
But, like, and then they encouraged Adam a bit.
Yeah,
And it's like they tried to stop the world. None of their, like, plans succeeded.
No, they were trying really hard, but they just didn't actually end up doing anything.
It was like the show was a tense plot about the end of the world, following these two bumbling bystanders who were just trying to, like, help, but, like, couldn't do anything.
It's just whack, man.
It's a very bizarre way to structure a show.
I can see why, like, I haven't really seen anybody say they don't like it, except for, like, that crazy group of, like, Christians that petitioned Netflix to cancel Amazon Prime's show Good Omens, which is really funny. But, like, anyone who's, like, not those people, I've never really seen, like, anybody, like, dislike it, but I could see why someone, like, it might rub them the wrong way, because, like, the main characters don't really do that much. The pacing's really weird, and, like, the CG is kind of shitty. And so are some of the child actors.
Yeah, the child actors are pretty mediocre. The CG's kind of shit, but they don't, like, use that much of it, so it's like not a huge deal.
It's, like, kind of endearing. It, like, matches, because the show's so strange and has so many weird things that, like, it kind of, like, complements it in a way. It
almost feels intentional.
It almost feels like it's supposed to be that way. Like, yeah, like, some of it is just, like...
Like, the show kind of feels kind of, like, really, like, weird and, like, campy.
Yeah.
Which...
That's
the
a good
book
word
was
for it.
The book was written in the 90s, so that might be why it feels really, like, campy.
Yeah, it's a very campy sort of show, but it's really good.
So it's like, the CG kind of, like, doesn't stick out. It almost feels like it was supposed to be kind of shit, just because the rest of the show is so ridiculous.
And there's, like... It is a very light-hearted show. There's not really anything, like, where, like, anyone's, like, particularly... Well, there's, like, one scene, but it's pretty short. And,
It's not very tense, considering it's, like, us supposed to be, like, an apocalypse thing.
Well, the tagline on the book is, "The apocalypse has never seemed so funny," and I think that's a very good summary of the show.
That wasn't an apocalypse, that was a review, I think.
What?
I think that was, a review that they plastered on.
Yeah, but, like, it was basically the tagline, because it was on, like, every single book on the front. And that's a pretty good summary of it. Like, it's very lighthearted, there's not a lot of, like... angst.
No,
they're just like having a good time, you know?
Like, no one, like, it's the end of the world in like a week and no one seems particularly, like, concerned. Like, they're concerned, but they're not, like, none of them are, like, panicking about their own mortality or something. They're all just like, okay, should probably try to stop that. It's very... Maybe the fact that they weren't... Zero and Crowley weren't super... important to the plot kind of helped with that lighthearted feel. Because it's like they didn't... They're, you know, they're an angel and a demon. So it's like they wouldn't die.
Yeah.
In the apocalypse.
They just liked living on Earth. So they didn't want to, like... They didn't want it to be destroyed because they didn't want to have to go back to heaven and hell.
So it kind of... It really, like, it was very, like, low, it felt very low stakes, despite the fact that it was literally about the apocalypse, and I feel like that was, like, very intentional.
Yeah, it's
supposed to be,
very
like,
strange, but it's good. But yeah, the CG's kind of shitty, but that kind of, like, seems intentional. Though, honestly, if we're being real, it's probably because they got, like, a shit ton of, like, really big actors in it, and that's probably where, like, all the budget... like, David Tennant is in it. Obviously, he's, like, one of the main characters. I always forget the name of the guy that plays Aziraphale.
Michael Sheen.
Michael
I
Sheen.
think.
I know his last name's Sheen. I always forget what his first name is.
We've
I always
never
want to say
seen-
Charlie for some reason because there's another actor I think called Charlie Sheen, and I always I'm pretty sure it's Michael, but I don't want to say that and then be wrong. But yeah, it's Michael Sheen.
Which I don't know. I've never
I don't think I've seen any. I might have seen something with him in it and just not known who he was.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of him though.
Yeah, and then David Tennant's a really big actor. Nick Offerman was in it a little bit.
So was Benedict Cumberbatch.
So was Benedict Cumberbatch. A lot of the there are a lot of, and I know that a lot of people. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the actors, but I know that a lot of people that the guy that plays Gabriel is a pretty known actor, and the woman that voices God is a pretty known actor. So it's probably
blew all their budget on
probably they blew all their budget on the actors. But you know what? That's way better. I would rather have really shitty effects and then really good actors.
Because again, the shitty effects almost fit.
They almost feel like that, even if they did have the budget, which they might have. I don't know. I'm speculating, but it seems like that they did it on purpose. And then, I mean,
they
I said the
probably
child
didn't.
actors aren't that great, but the guy that plays Adam is pretty good. He's serviceable, and he's the only one that really matters.
He doesn't emote at any point.
No, but you could write that off as him being the Antichrist.
Yeah, it's the kids aren't very good actors, but it's you could kind of just they kind of are able to slide.
Though that one the kid that played Warlock in the first episode when he was not 11, when Crowley and Aziraphale were trying to raise him, he was terrible. And he was 5, so I mean what is he supposed to do?
He's not gonna be good.
He was not good. But again, it's
not the kid's fault that he's 5 and he doesn't know how to act.
Yeah, but it's again, it wasn't super distracting or anything, I noticed it, but it didn't make me dislike the show. You can't expect an Aidan Gallagher out of every every child actor, alright?
Can't expect the Stranger Things cast from all of them.
Yeah, they set the bar too high for that to be expected. And again, they weren't too bad. They were pretty good. They were all right. They weren't nearly as good as the adult actors, which makes sense because they're 11.
They were fine.
They were better than a lot of.
At first you might notice ooh, that's not great, but it's you kind of you just sort of it's not super noticeable most of the time.
There were a lot of 11-year-olds that could have been way worse.
Oh no, yeah, they could have done a lot worse. Yeah, they were fine.
They were fine. And it almost kind of played into it because the kids were really weird.
Yeah. That's I don't know why they were able to just slide out, because it's some of the line delivery is kind of awkward, but then sometimes kids do just talk sort of awkwardly.
Yeah, but
and also they're very strange.
They're and I don't know if part of it is because of the strange delivery, but they're just really weird. I can't describe why they're weird. They're just very kind of off-putting in the way that they
come off as very ominous, which makes sense because they're the Antichrist and his friends.
Yeah, but they just they talk very matter-of-factly about really weird things.
Yeah,
and
there's that time when they were talking about they were just playing imaginary games like kids do.
Yeah.
And they were talking about witch hunts. And we didn't realize at first that they were talking about playing a game, because they were saying it so straight-faced and matter-of-factly that it sounded like they were actually planning on going and burning some witches.
Yeah, and then one of them was my dad says witches aren't real, and a really weird deadpan voice, and it's why like it was like normal. It's like that's still something that needs to be contested in this universe. Which I mean, witches are real in this universe.
So it kind of makes sense that it would still be kind of like
it's just
contested.
they're very weird. They're very, very strange.
It's like I don't know if that's because of the acting or if that was like an intentional decision that was made to make.
I don't know if it's intentional, but it does help their like acting kind of slide by, and it does fit because it's a very weird show. So
Yeah.
it fits that like
And
it fits that the Antichrist and his friends are like weird and off-putting and ominous.
Yeah, so it's like it's like the CG again. Like it kind of just works.
Like I don't know if it's intentional, but it works. So I'm not complaining.
Same with like a lot of like the weird shit. Not even like weird shit as in like aliens show up in one scene and don't like do anything and never show up again.
Happen so often,
and it's like not that kind of weird. Like the pacing is weird, the plot, like everything is like weird.
Everything is weird, and I can see why it would be really off-putting to someone that like I talked to one of my friends about the show, and he saw he said he saw the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes. So basically, he just missed like Crowley and Aziraphale being friends.
But that's the best part of the show.
That is the best part of the show. But like, and you could tell that he didn't like hate it, but he wasn't nearly as like big of a fan of it as I was, and he's like a much more kind of like critical like storyteller. Like he's much more analytical about things, and that's how he enjoys things. And I'm analytical about things. Just because I like to, like, explain why I like something, but I'm really into weird, off-the-walls shit, so, like, I'm a big fan of this show.
We're into, like, surrealism, and, like, we don't really give much of a shit about things being, like, conventionally good, like, the pacing, like, the plot, or, like, literally anything. Like, I don't, like...
Like, this whole podcast is basically us breaking down and analyzing why we like things, but I don't care about, like, plot holes, or, like... Yeah, like you said, whether or not, like, the pacing's good. Like, there are just things that I like, and if it's supposed to be weird and strange and off the walls, then it doesn't need to make sense, and I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is.
It's like, it depends on, like, the intent. Like, some stories are definitely better serviced by, like, conventionally good pacing and, like, a conventional, like, story structure. Mm-hmm. Like Harry Potter, we're reading the Harry Potter books right now.
Yeah.
That book has some weird shit. It's a lot, like, cheesier than I think people...
Uh-huh.
Like, I forgot how cheesy it was. Well, whimsical, I guess.
That happens
like
a lot
fantasy.
with things, though. Like, cult classics kind of, like, well, things that are, like, big parts of people's childhood that people kind of idolize, like, that end up kind of, like Harry Potter and Star Wars. Like, people will, like, die. They will, like, die on this hill of defending the integrity of like Harry Potter and Star Wars, but it's like they're both kind of cheesy and like, weird, and it's like that's fine.
Like, the Star Wars fandom now, and they like get mad about shit that's like not being scientifically accurate and stuff, and it's just like it's the disgrace, and it's like, dude. It's Star Wars. They're like, one of the main antagonists of the original trilogy was a fucking slug man.
It's like, we are not people that are big into, like, hard, like, sci-fi and, like, hard fantasy, and those are good, I enjoy them, but I also just really like shit that's just weird for the sake of being weird, you know? It doesn't have to be well thought out.
But, like, the point I was trying to make is, like, Harry Potter it's definitely, like, serviced better by, like, a, like, conventional pacing and, like, a conventional story structure. Like, I feel like if Harry Potter had, like, fucked up pacing, it would probably be, like, worse.
Yeah.
But, like, a show like Good Omens, like, totally works with, like, whack, like, really, like, crackhead pacing and, like, just non-existent story structure.
Like, there are some things where it works, and some things where you just gotta go full crackhead, you know? And this is one of those things where you gotta go full crackhead. But that doesn't mean that the writing is bad, it just means it's weird.
Again,
the characters are great.
I saw like this. Sometimes I watch this thing called Trope Talk on a channel called Overly Sarcastic Productions.
Yeah.
And in one of them, they said something that I really like about writing. They said like, good writing is any writing that works. And if it's, and like, I forget what they said exactly after that, but they were basically, the point was that like, if something's writing that's usually considered bad, but like but it works, then it's not bad writing, it's just not fashionable writing.
That's pretty much what this show is. It's really well written, and it's weird, and it's whimsical, and the characters are great, and the dialogue is great, and it does have a good plot. It's just nonsense.
Yeah. It's like, now I like currently, like, I'm not super in touch with what's like super popular outside of like internet fandom, geek nerd culture kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it seems that media has kind of, at least in recent years, had more of like it's been in fashion to have things be like really like realistic and like grounded, and it's like maybe that started going out of fashion. Maybe because I've been seeing a lot more weird shit like the Umbrella Academy and like Good Omens getting popular, so maybe it's because like a lot of really shitty things have come out of like the gritty, realistic things that people like shut the fuck up.
The real world is so trash right now, and it's like fiction is I feel like more people. It's like people do still like realism, and there's still a lot of popular like grounded things, but I feel like more people are also getting more into like weird shit because they're like, fiction is supposed to be fun.
Reality isn't fun anymore.
Reality isn't fun. I don't want to watch something that feels like reality because reality feels like garbage. It's like, fiction is supposed to be fun. Batman versus Superman wasn't fun.
Yeah, and it's like, but like, it's
I want something that's weird and stupid.
But again, I'm not in touch enough with like mainstream entertainment to like really know like what's in style right now, but it seems like more grounded stuff is in style, which makes it easy for people to say, well, stuff that's like really weird and off the walls and bizarre just isn't like well thought out, it isn't well planned, it isn't good. But it's like, no, if that's what you're going for, then yeah, that's good writing.
Yeah, it's just different, you know.
It's just not what most people are looking for at the moment.
Yeah. But the show is definitely strange, and it's definitely not what I expected it to be. I expected it to be a much more conventional type of story.
So did I.
I was expecting it to be kind of like a demon and an angel grudgingly teaming up to save the world, and like the demon has a little bit of a soft spot, and then the angel is like, ooh, you get a redemption arc, and now the demon's nice, which I was down for. I eat that trope up, I love it, but it's like way weirder than that.
It's not they grudgingly team up. It's an angel and a demon who have been friends since the dawn of time. So they don't like, I was expecting them to like meet, reluctantly team up, and slowly become friends as they realize they're like not so different.
Yeah.
But no, they had been friends for 6,000 years.
They're just like really stupid.
And like Aziraphale was like kind of in denial about the fact that they were friends, because he was like, we can't be friends, but like they were totally friends.
But that's the thing, their character development is really interesting. Now I'm gonna get into like the really analytical part that I have written down. Because their character development is really interesting because they didn't change their behavior that much. You could see it from like the dawn of time to the apocalypse. They still act essentially the same way, but their development is that they kind of understand themselves and each other better. Like, you know, like they were kind of like both, like like, Aziraphale would be like, oh, you're not so bad, you're a nice guy deep down, and Crowley would be like, shut the fuck up. And then every time Crowley implied that Aziraphale wasn't really, like, all that angelic, or, like, that, you know, like, God's side wasn't really, like, all that, like,
Good
holy
guy.
he would be like, excuse you, you just don't like it because you're a demon. But then at the end of the show, like, Aziraphale's like, you know what, you're nice deep down, and Crowley's like, and deep down, you're a bit of a bastard, and they're both, like, deeply flattered.
And it's like Aziraphale kind of started to realize and maybe kind of agree that the angel side really wasn't all that, like, angelic, or, like, they were all kind of like assholes.
Yeah, that was, like, the other thing that, like, I said. I was like, I expected, like, Aziraphale to rub off on Crowley, and Crowley to, like, you know, oh, he's a good guy now, but it was, like, the opposite.
Crowley rubbed off way more on Aziraphale.
Like, Crowley's always done, like, demonic things, and he's, you know, like, a bit of an asshole, you know, but he's always been, like, way more willing to break, like, the demon's rules and just do his own thing, not feel any guilt about it, just be like, it's not my fault if they never check up on us. I'm doing whatever the hell I want. But then Aziraphale was, like, much more of a stickler and was really convinced that the angels were, like, good people, and, like, he had to do what was right and what God wanted him to do. And he always kind of gave himself excuses for why what he wanted to do was, like, okay for him to do. But then by the end, he was like, yeah, okay. I'm tired of this. And Crowley was like, fucking told you they suck.
Yeah, like, Crowley was always, like, a demon and he did demonic things, but then it's like, if he would have been the demon rules and, like, do something nice, he, like, didn't care. Like, he was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do, like...
He
like
embraced the fact that he was very, like, chaotic neutral.
Yeah, and it was, like, with... Like, when they had that agreement thing, once they realized they were sort of just canceling each other out all the time, when there was, like, if they got a call to do this, like, a demonic thing and an angelic thing at the same place at the same time, they would just, both of them would, well, one of them would just go and do both of the things.
Yeah.
Because it, like, didn't matter. It was, like, Crowley was down to do that. He came up with the idea, and he was like, yeah, I'll do nice things, I don't care.
He had to, like, convince Aziraphale for, like, 200 years to do it. Because that was the thing, is that, like, they both did, like, good things and bad things, but Aziraphale was much more in denial. Like, they were both in denial about it, but Aziraphale was, like, much more so, and so... they both became more self-aware, but then Aziraphale did even more. And, you know, he became much more willing to kind of, like, break the rules and be like, fuck you, I'll do what I want.
And then he kind of, like, there's this whole conflict about, like, you know, they had, like God's great plan, and Aziraphale didn't want to, like, go against it, but then he kind of realized that, like, no one knows what the fuck it is! So it's like, how is he supposed to know? Like, that was something he used as an excuse a lot when he was doing things, like, usually with Crowley, like, encouraging him to.
Yeah.
Like, he was just like, because he was like, I can't do that, because, like, the inevitable plan, and then he was just like, do you know what it is? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, what if this was what you were supposed to do after all?
And Aziraphale would just be like, oh shit, you're right. So it's just very interesting, you know? I also feel like, they're very similar people. Like, they have very opposite aesthetics. And outwardly they act pretty different, but, like, they believe the same things, they make similar, decisions, and they're both pretty, like, chaotic, neutral characters. Like, ironically, they're very human, they're not good or evil.
Yeah.
And they both kind of, like, kept up pretenses of being good at their job, but, like, you could tell that their hearts weren't really in it, and then by the end of the show, they were like, we're on our own side now.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. What else do I have written down? I've blasted through like my 3 longest points.
I really liked the really random plot thread with the flaming sword. How, like, in the first episode of Zero, I was like, I gave it away to, like, Adam and Eve to help them, like, survive. And he was like, I hope, like, heaven doesn't mind that I did that. And then it's like God brings it up to him, like, once, and he's like, oh, yeah, I definitely still have it. And then, like, never again. He was like, cool. I guess I got out of that one. And then, like, halfway through the show, one of the other angels is like, oh, you still have that sword, right? And he's just like, yeah.
And then when he, like, gets all, you know... like, when his, like, body gets destroyed and he goes up to heaven, Anderson is just, like, where's your fucking
like
sword?
4 actors in it.
There's just, this dude, this one actor whose name I do not know, just keeps continuously getting cast as, like, side characters.
Like, annoying side
like
characters.
annoying side characters that are always like mad at the antagonist. It's great. But he was like, where's your sword, bitch? And then Aziraphale was like, about that, you see, I didn't, you know, also where's your body? And he was like, well, about those things. It's just good. There was a lot of like weird
just,
plot
like,
threads.
a random little, like, detail, and then, like, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse had, and I don't know, it wasn't, like, super important or anything, it was just, like, this weird random, it was almost like a running joke.
Yeah.
Like, Aziraphale's flaming sword just cropping up in places.
And then him being like, ah ha.
Like, it was almost like a bit of a running joke, and I don't know, it just
enjoyed
occurred to me that I found it kind of, like, amusing.
It is pretty amusing. But there are a lot of random plot threads in this show that are, like, just kind of thrown in there for, like, shits and giggles, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's the sword. Atlantis was in there.
Yeah, for, like, an episode, and then they just never brought it up again.
The Kraken was in there. Aliens. You thought the witch thing was random as hell.
It turned out to be objectively more important than any plot that Chloe and Aziraphale would.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I thought it was pretty random too, but I was like, I'm sure they're gonna tie it in there.
Because it was kind of like, it was at that point where I was like, I feel like it should be getting, like this apocalypse thing should be more urgent. Now they're just chucking in, like, witchfinders. Mm-hmm. And, like, I didn't, like, understand what the relevance was, but no, they ended up being pretty important. And they did tie it in very well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And then Satan was
I had
there
to
for
eat my
literally...
words.
Satan was there for literally 2 seconds, and he was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, and I definitely expected him to just be, like, a dude chilling in a suit like everybody else.
Yeah,
and then he was just this big old demon.
I mean, I guess God was, like, a disembodied voice.
Yeah, that's true.
But, like, everyone else was, like, you know, just sort of people. Like, the demons were just people that looked like they were in zombie makeup. Mm-hmm. Like, they just sort of looked like zombies. The angels were just people. Some of them had, like, glitter.
Yeah.
But, like, they were mostly just normal-looking people.
Yeah.
Kind of extra looking, but, like, normal.
And then Satan was just this, like, 20-story high, red, like, stereotypical, like, doom-looking monster.
CGI beast.
Just
like,
with the Benedict Cumberbatch's voice coming out of it, and then he leaves after literally, like, 30 seconds.
Very anticlimactic. This is very anticlimactic. Which,
Yeah.
again, is what part of it makes me think that, like... Because, like, the end of the second episode... not the second episode, the last episode...
Good job.
was, like... Was mostly, like, wrapping up the thing with, like, Aziraphale and Crowley's, conflicts with heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. For, like, you know, betraying them, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
But... Which makes me feel like the show was supposed to kind of just be, like... It wasn't really about the apocalypse, it was about them.
Yeah.
And the apocalypse was just a thing that was also happening. Which is
like
a really
the
weird way to
apocalypse-
structure your show.
The
but, like, it
apocalypse was
works.
like a backdrop. It was like an inciting event for them to like hang out more frequently.
Yeah, because they like... Because they wouldn't, like, because they would just, like, hang out every couple hundred years.
You know, maybe like once a decade they'd get together for lunch or something. But it was like, you know, mostly because Aziraphale was really in denial that they were friends. So they didn't really like hang out all that much, even though you tell that they wanted to hang out.
It was a very strange way to structure the show, to just have it be like a story about like two friends basically, with the backdrop of the apocalypse, but it's not a bad way to structure a show, just like a weird way, and just I was expecting the apocalypse to be more important, but that's just because to give a synopsis, there's no way to. I mean, I guess you could just say it's about an angel and a demon who are friends, and also the apocalypse is happening. But like, there's no way to just because of conventional storytelling, there's no way to explain the show to someone without them assuming the apocalypse is going to be the main focus of the plot.
Yeah.
Because if you mention the apocalypse, everyone's just gonna be like, that's the plot then.
Yeah, you're right.
But it really
it's kind of like the Umbrella Academy, in a way. They all know the apocalypse is coming, and they're just too busy dealing with their own shit to do anything about it. There's one character that's this is kind of important. That was Anathema in Good Omens.
She was cool. I
liked her. Yeah, Newt was pretty rad as well.
I don't super care about a lot of them, but they were cool.
I like them all. I mean, obviously, but
they were all likable.
They were all likable, but they weren't I wasn't oh my god, I love this character so much. I wanted to just tunnel vision on Crowley and Aziraphale.
If you've seen some stuff about Good Omens and it kind of seems like the only two characters in the show, Crowley and Aziraphale, because they're by far the best ones.
Though they're all interesting and well written, and they did a really good job with the demons and the angels.
The weird subplot with the witch hunter guy and his prostitute neighbor.
His prostitute and psychic neighbor, which is an interesting set of skills.
One that seems specifically designed to make you hated by your witch hunter neighbor.
Yeah.
By your good Christian witch hunter. But no, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, and then they ended up, I guess, moving in together at the end. So they ended up being friends.
Yeah. I appreciated that.
I liked it. It was a good subplot. It was pretty cute, pretty funny. What else do I have to say? Ooh, I didn't write this down because I'm a moron, but I absolutely adore, one of my favorite scenes in, the whole show was in the last episode when they're at, their weird trial things, for betraying heaven and hell. I love it. It's so good. We're gonna have to put a spoiler warning in the beginning of this because we didn't before. We were just anyway. But they, Crowley went to hell and Aziraphale went to heaven, and they were gonna get destroyed, and they knew that was coming, so they switched.
They switched bodies.
They switched bodies.
They would be destroyed by holy water, and then I guess what was hellfire. Probably.
Yeah, holy water and hellfire. Yeah.
But hellfire doesn't hurt demons, and holy water can't hurt an angel.
And it's so good because when you throughout the scene, when they when Crowley in quotes was in the bathtub of holy water, and then Aziraphale stepped into the flame and they were fine. I'm ooh, I bet they switched. But leading up to it, I didn't expect that at all because they were really good at pretending to be each other. But then when you look back on it, there were tiny little details. Oh my god, I'm so mad that I can't remember. I remember it now. they get kidnapped while they're eating ice cream together. Is how this happens. And Aziraphale, again in quotes, just kind of gets dragged away by angels, and like he gets his arms tied up and he's got like duct tape over his mouth and he's like, ah! And then Crowley, again in quotes, just gets fucking hit over the head with like a tire lever. Which
I feel like really helped explain the differences between heaven and hell in this show. Like, they'll both screw you over, but heaven will do it a bit more nicely.
Yeah. And then when, Crowley gets hit over the head with a tire lever and he, like, hits the pavement and he's about to pass out, one of the demons is just like, ooh, something wrong, Crowley. And he just goes, no, it's all tickety-boo. And then he passes out. And that's something that Aziraphale says. And there's a whole scene where Crowley made fun of him for saying it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. He said the thing that Aziraphale said. And then when I realized they switched, I was like, oh! And then there's just, like, tiny little... Like, they did a really good job pretending to be each other, but you could tell that, like...
good, because, like, they've known each other for 6,000 years.
It really just, like, cements that they're, like, best friends. But then... Aziraphale was really hamming it up. like, you could tell that Crowley was kind of like, I don't want to fuck this up. Even though I really want to, like, end this man's whole career, but I'm not going to.
I'm just going to be quiet and nervous.
I'm just going to act quiet and nervous, and then once I get into the hellfire, I'm going to be like, just freak him out a little bit more. Which isn't something Aziraphale would do, but then Aziraphale pretended to be Crowley so perfect. It was like, he believed that if he didn't be as dramatic and extra as hell, they wouldn't buy it. He was all like, just being really nonchalant. He was like, nice place you got here, could use some house plants. And then when they're like, we've got a bathtub full of holy water that you gotta jump in, he's like, don't want to ruin this jacket, you mind if I take it off? And then when he got in, he was still wearing socks, which the chaotic energy. And then he was just sitting there, he's like splashing holy water at the glass where a bunch of demons are watching him freak out. He asks for a rubber duck, makes the archangel Michael miracle him a towel. He's just like... Absolutely.
He really hammed it up. He seemed like he was having a great time pretending to be
He was just like, now is my chance to just be as extra and, like, dickish as possible to these people that I do not like.
And they'll never know.
They'll never know. It'll just make my plan go smoother. And I just loved it so much. And I was like, I could tell... that I thought they probably switched, but I didn't know for sure until afterwards when they were sitting on that bench, because they were just doing each other's,
like, their body language.
Their body language was completely different. Like, Aziraphale was all, like,
they can't
splayed out. Yeah, like, he was, like, they both, throughout the whole show, and you were talking about this, how this was, like, a good... It was like, way to build character.
Yeah, it's just, not really build it, just sort of make them feel a little more, like, real and alive, is to give them, like, really specific, like, mannerisms and stuff.
And so throughout the whole show, every time they were sitting somewhere that didn't have, like, a table in front of them, Aziraphale sat with, like, his, like, hands kind of resting on his legs, and he had, like, his hands folded in front. He had, like, his arms resting on his legs and his hands folded in front of him, and he was sitting all kind of, like, upright. I don't know why I'm illustrating it while I'm explaining it. This is just how it's gonna be. Like, he sat very, like, kind of prim and proper, and then Crowley was all, like, splayed out. He would always have, like, his arms, like, stretched on the back of the chair. And then, like, when they were sitting there, like, with each other's, like, appearances, they were both, like, sitting like the other one always does.
And they were also sitting, like, on the wrong sides of the bench. Like, if you notice in every other scene where they're sitting, like, on a bench, they sit on, like, the same side.
You're right!
Like Aziraphale always sits on one, on, like, the... I guess, like, the left.
It's the left side from their perspective from our side. If we're looking at them, it's on the right side.
No, I think if we're looking at them, it's on the left.
No.
No, I think it is.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think it is.
No.
I'm pretty sure it is.
No, it's not.
One of them always sits on the left side, and one of them always sits on the right side.
And then in this one, they were sitting on the other side. And it's just really good. And I liked that scene for a lot of reasons, but two big reasons, I think, is that the way that they did it, it kind of like shows like the skills of both the actors and the characters, because when they're pretending to be each other, they do a really good job of pretending to be each other, but you know, that can be kind of expected because, you know, the actors are still like, you know, pretending to be the characters that they've always have been, but then on the bench scene, the actors are pretending to be the other person's character, and they still do a really good job.
Like when Aziraphale is opposing against Crowley, David Tennant just has to act like Crowley.
Yeah.
But then when he's, like, in that bench scene, then David Tennant has to act like Aziraphale.
And they do a really good job of it. And, like, Michael Sheen does a really good job pretending to be Crowley. Like, he got, like, David Tennant's, like, facial expressions down for it. It was really good. I just enjoyed it immensely. I appreciate that scene so much.
I just really appreciate it because it was, like... It was such, like, honest, like, it was just so wrong, like, seeing them, like, sitting on the bench that way. Now, like, I didn't even realize why until you pointed out to me, and I feel like that's just good to have your characters so, like, have such, like, specific mannerisms, like people in real life do. Maybe not, I mean, it's a bit, most people don't have things that are that distinctive. There's some people do.
Some people do. I mean, I feel like it's not really always something you notice, but I mean, like, it's not always something so, like, unique that you notice it, but most people do have a way that they sit just automatically. Like, you always cross your legs, no matter what you're sitting on.
That's true.
Like, there's dirt on my car's dashboard because you always cross your legs and then have your foot on, like, the glove box. So, like, that's the thing. Like, people... It's not always so exaggerated that you notice, but since it's a TV show, it's a nice touch to have it be more exaggerated.
Especially since there's such, like... They're so like extra as characters. Like there's some characters that are like really well developed that they feel kind of like normal people. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in like a boring way, but like you might struggle to like describe them in like without making them sound kind of generic because they don't have like super like some characters have super exaggerated personalities and some of them don't.
Yeah.
And both of them can be good. Mm-hmm. But, like, they're the type that have their very, like, cartoonish characters. They have very strong...
They're very, like, flamboyant people.
They have very strong personalities.
Yeah, so it was good. I enjoyed that scene a lot.
That's just so, like, it's just so good that I found it so, like, off-putting subconsciously, but I didn't even, like, know why. Like, I couldn't place what was wrong with it.
Your brain was just like, no, incorrect.
Yeah.
It's a good touch. It's a good touch.
Yeah.
What else do I have? Not much.
I wanted to talk about the costume design, which is a weird thing. Because, like, one thing with, you hear this when you, like, as an artist, when you, like, seeing tips about, like, character design, where it's, like, you want to, like, people say it's good design to be able to, like, tell a lot about your character by looking at them. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, you don't usually get that in live-action shows.
Yeah.
Like, they'll give them, like, costumes that, like, reflect, like, you know, that stuff that seems like stuff the character would wear. Mm-hmm. But, like, you don't really, like, but it's nothing that, like, really, like, it's normally, like, pretty normal-looking clothes. It's nothing that, like, sticks out to you very much, and it's like once you know who they are, then you're like, yeah, they would wear that, but like usually it's not super distinctive.
Yeah.
Because it would look really like, because that's like a thing with like drawing, with character design, it would look cartoonish in a lot of things to have like their appearance reflect their personality so strongly, because people in real life aren't like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it kind of depends. If you have a really punk rock character, you give them a really punk rock outfit.
Yeah.
But it's like, I get what you're saying. Move on.
It's not like, most of the time, it's like it kind of will reflect their personality or like a sense of style that they have, but not like, not on the level of that of like, of like an animated character. But, like, with the costume design, which is basically the closest you can get to character design, with, like, live action shows, it's like that. Like, you can, like, look at a poster for Good Omens with them on it, never watch a second of the show, and you'll know what they're like. You'll know how Aziraphale and Crowley act.
Yeah, it's not just that, which their costumes are great. They're really reflective of who they are. I think it's really interesting how they, like, when they show them in different time periods, like, Aziraphale tends to kind of, like, look like, wear, like, similar things. Like, his hair doesn't really change, and, like, even when he was in, like, the French Revolution, he didn't wear, like, the same outfit he wears now, obviously, but he wore, like, the same kind of color scheme, and it was, like, a really, like, kind of, like, expensive looking outfit, and then Crowley was like, you really wore, like, an aristocratic outfit during the French Revolution, and he was like, I have standards. But, like...
Yeah, he always dresses, like, nice.
Very, like...
fancy.
Yeah.
With, like, the same colors, but, like, it fits the time period.
He dresses very smartly, and then Crowley changes his hair a lot, and he wears pretty period-appropriate clothes, but just, like, grungy.
Yeah.
But all their period outfits are really good, and then, like, the designs of, like, the demons and angels are really good. Like, we were talking about how it's, like, they all look kind of like, the demons are all kind of, like, zombie-ish, and then, like, the angels all kind of dress, like, kind of, like, properly, and some of them have, like, glitter and stuff, and it's, like,
but
a way of making
like,
them,
they
like...
all dress properly, but not in, like, the way Aziraphale does, where it's kind of, like... Like, Aziraphale, like, wears fancy clothes, but he wears fancy clothes that make him look, like... very, like, eccentric.
Like, they're eccentrically fancy.
Like, full-on, like, 7-layer suits or whatever, and then the other angels dress like businessmen.
Yeah, they dress like businessmen, and he dresses like an eccentric professor.
Yeah.
Like he has like a plaid bow tie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they're just very, like, and then, like, with the demons and angels, they do a good job of making them look kind of like a unified group, but not completely. Like, a lot of the major, not really so much with the angels, but with the demons, they all kind of, like, have, like, a thing.
Do they?
Like, Beelzebub has, like, a bunch of, like, open, like, sores on her face, and she has a bunch of flies flying around her, and that one dude had, like, a chameleon. And then, like, Hasta had, like, a frog, I think. Just sitting on his head. Like, they just have, really weird shit going on. But it's good, I like it. Everyone looked great.
Yeah. So,
I love the 4 Horsemen biker gang. Their aesthetics were real strong. Loved
I'm sure
their
they
designs.
used to be horsemen back in, like, ye olden times, but then motorcycles were invented, and they were like, that's way cooler.
Yeah, they were their costumes were really good. They were really they really summed up, you know. They really looked kind of like how they were supposed to, I feel like. Like, Death especially looked, you know, he looked like a fucking Dementor.
I liked how they changed pestilence to pollution. Mm-hmm. Like, they were like, pollution's more of a threat to, like, modern society than pestilence.
Like, we've come pretty far with modern medicine. It's very unlikely that a plague would wipe out the earth, but pollution is actively killing us.
Like, it would, plague could probably wipe out a lot of Earth.
Yeah.
But, like, it wouldn't end the world.
Yeah.
Because, like, there were some places, like, it just wouldn't, anti-vaxxers might let it get free. But, like, there are a lot of places where it, like, wouldn't, like, you know, it wouldn't be as effective as it was in, like, 300 BC, you know?
Yeah. Like, it's not like one dirty rat's gonna wipe out a third of Europe again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's not, like, gonna be a thing.
They did mention a lot about global warming. It was like this whole like show is like a front to be like, listen, this one shitty kid isn't gonna kill us. Global warming.
It's like the kid was gonna like when he got closest to being like, I will destroy the earth.
Mm-hmm.
He was like gonna destroy it and like restart it so it wouldn't be on track to destroy itself.
Yeah. Is very interesting, you know.
It was just one of those like weird little things.
When the aliens showed up, they literally showed up and they were like, we've come to reprimand you because your ice caps are like critically below regulation for a planet of your size. And then it was like, oh.
That was just another random little plot thread that was just thrown in there occasionally. Like,
Yeah.
wasn't important, but it was just, like, there.
Yeah. So, I don't really have much else written down except, oh yeah, they're gay.
Yeah. Now then. People probably, it's an important thing to address.
It's an important part of the show.
And the fandom. I'm sure everyone's just been like, if anyone gives a shit about what we have to say about this, then they've probably been waiting.
They've been waiting
for us
for
to
this.
talk about it. So usually when there's like a fandom that like, they don't just like ship two of the main characters, they're like, oh, it like comes up, like, they're like, oh, they're gay. They're like, you know,
They're
like,
married.
it's like you get like when people say that like the show comes off that way, they're usually wrong.
Yeah,
They're
like
usually exaggerating.
I was a little confused when I saw stuff about it because people were so sure of it that I was like, does it happen in the show? But like nobody said that it did really. They were just like it was kind of like what they're like with John Locke, basically, is that they were like, oh yeah, 100% in love and no doubts about it. And usually when that happens, they blow it like way out of proportion.
With like Sherlock, like I went into that like knowing everyone shipped and everyone was like, oh yeah, they're in love. No, there's no debate. It's a thing. And then I watched it and I was like, are you sure about that?
It's like there's not a problem with you thinking that, but like with me, I'm a very platonic person, and I really like it when shows have really strong friendships, and I do like romantic subplots and stuff, but I also really, really like platonic things, and so I don't see people as anything other than platonic unless the show is like they are more than friends.
Like unless it has to, like I can't ship something just because it's like, oh, these characters could or would or should be together, like they would be good together, so now I ship it. It's like there has to be evidence in the text.
I have
that
to have
they are
receipts.
in love.
I have to be able to like make an MLA format essay about it, which isn't the case for everybody, and that's fine. That's just what I'm like. So I knew that people like shipped them going into it, but I was fully expecting it to be blown out of proportion.
I was fully expecting it to be like Sherlock again, where everyone's like, it's so gay, and then you just watch it and it's just like, they're friends, you freak.
Yeah,
but
like
then
that's
it's like,
literally
that's just
what the internet
friendship looks like.
Yeah, like that's literally what the internet always does, but Jesus Christ, they're so gay.
No, they were not. There was zero exaggeration.
Legitimately. Just like, are you just like it has to
It
be
has
a thing.
to be
Like if they
intentional.
make a season 2, which they might not because it is based on a book and apparently the whole plot of the book is in the show, so they might not continue it.
But it kind of sounded like they were setting it up for a second.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, I want there to be more, but there might not. But if there is, this has got to be a plot point, man. It's
Like,
literally
there's gotta be
so
trying.
you can't. accidentally do these things.
Because it wasn't, like, dialogue, it wasn't, like, some things that people, like, again, in, like, shows like Sherlock point to, like, look at that line of dialogue, and it's like, I mean, I guess, like, you could interpret it that way, but, like, it's also pretty, like, it's, like, musical cues and shit.
Yeah, like
stuff
there's a lot
that's
of times,
very intentional.
like, there's a lot of times where it's, like, dialogue, and it's just like, oh, well, you know, that could be interpreted more ways than one, but, like, literally, there's musical cues. Like there's this one episode.
It was, like, the one where it was, like, a bunch of flashbacks to their friendships, and this is, like, I'm pretty sure we just paused the show and just looked at each other and we're like, hey, what the fuck?
We were like, hey.
'Cause, like,
I was, like, fully going into it not expecting...
like, anything.
I was expecting them to be really good friends and to enjoy their friendship and their dynamic a lot, and I already was enjoying their dynamic a lot, but I wasn't expecting anything different than that. And then this happens, and I literally paused it, and we look at each other, and we're like, what?
Because it's like, okay, it's like the scene with, like, the Nazis in World War II, the UFO was, like, trying to trick them into doing, like, something, I don't know, like, getting arrested, I guess.
Yeah.
And he was, like, saying, oh, here's a bunch of books about, like, some prophecies.
Because Hitler wanted them.
Yeah, and then it turns out that the person Aziraphale thought was, like, there to, like, trick them with them was actually tricking him, and she was a Nazi, too. But then
Bamboozled.
And then Crowley shows up and, like, uses his demon powers to make a bomb fall on the building. Because he's very direct.
That whole scene was hilarious, by the way. Like Aziraphale was
for people fucking with Nazis.
Yeah, and Aziraphale was, like, so smug about it. Mark Gatiss was one of the Nazis, which is always hilarious when he's just, like...
He's another one of those actors that just crops up in, like, every
He just crops up in everything. He's usually a little bit of a dick. It's great. And then, like, he was like, haha, I've tricked you. And then they were like, haha, no you didn't. And then Crowley comes in and he's like playing the floor is lava, basically. He's like, hot, hot. And they're all like,
they were in, like, a church.
Because they were in a church. And then they were
But
like,
they
what's
didn't
up
know.
with this guy? And then he was like, ooh.
Because they, like,
Blessed ground.
Because they didn't know that, Aziraphale was an angel and that Crowley was a demon. But, so then, they drop a bomb on the building, and then Aziraphale uses a miracle to protect him and Crowley, because they can't die, but they can become, like, discorporated, which basically means they lose their bodies, and it's, like, an inconvenience.
Yeah, that they would rather avoid.
But then he gets, like, kind of upset because he forgot about the books.
Because he runs a bookshop, he's really into books. If you've gotten this far, you definitely know that, but he, like, really likes books.
Nerd.
Yeah, he's a big old nerd.
And then Crowley's like, don't worry, I remembered the books. And, like, he used his demon powers to, like, save the books, and he gives them to Aziraphale. And then as he's walking away, Aziraphale looks really, like, pleased. There's just, like, soft violin music.
It's, like, soft, but, like, kind of, like, upbeat, like, romance. It's, like, a scene... It's, like, music that would
like
play...
meet cute music.
Like, yeah, it's, like... It's, like, music that you play in, like, a romance movie before there's, like, a montage of two characters falling in love. And it was just, like, big, like, sweeping... beautiful violin music while like zooms in on Crowley looking like really like surprised and not Crowley, Aziraphale looking really surprised and happy while Crowley's just like sauntering away, and I was like, excuse me.
And then that's when we paused it, just looked at each other like, what the hell was that?
Like, there was so much stuff. Like, literally,
there were a couple more moments like that with, like, the soft violin.
Like, I literally, like, these things would happen, and I would want to just, like, slam my head into a wall, because I was like, this can't be an accident. Like,
You can accidentally write dialogue that sounds a little romantic when you're trying to write people who are really close friends. You can't accidentally slip in a romantic musical.
but then it got to the point where even the dialogue was like, there's no way around this. Like, literally, they have a star-crossed lovers argument in a park on a pavilion. Literally, Aziraphale's like, it would never work. I'm an angel and you're a demon. And Crowley's like, let's run away together. Like, are you kidding me?
That's a direct quote. We could run away together.
Literally, are you kidding me?
That could be platonic, but that's never been platonic. Like, you can't.
There are ways to get that point across without literally saying we could run away together, which is universally a romantic thing to say.
It's not necessarily, like, romantic in its exact meaning, but, like, the connotations definitely are.
They're like, if it's like, it's not inherently a romantic thing to say, but with the connotations, it's like, if you were trying to avoid leaving that impression, you would word it differently, because even if you knew in your brain that it was platonic, reading that out loud, you'd be like, that sounds pretty gay.
Like, that sounds romantic, because that's like a romantic cliche.
Yeah.
With, like,
and
forbidden
then
love
following
type
it up
things.
with literally an exact quote being like, it would never work. It's like, what do you expect us to think? What do you expect us to think? And then I remembered this one while we were writing it, but like, Crowley's always like offering Aziraphale a ride somewhere, and Aziraphale's always like, we could, like, literally, like, we could go for a picnic or go out to a restaurant, and like, you know, they don't need to eat, though Aziraphale likes food. It's like, Aziraphale definitely doesn't need a ride anywhere. He can teleport.
Yeah.
But he's still like, take, I'll drive you somewhere. And then they do it in the 60s, and Crowley's literally just like, anywhere you want to go. And then Aziraphale looks at him sadly and goes, you go too fast for me, Crowley, and then leaves. Like, what the fuck? Like, tell me.
This is how it's supposed to come off.
Tell me how, if this is not intentional, tell me how this was supposed to be read, because this is how I'm reading. This is not how you write platonic characters. The last shot of the show. The last shot of the show is them at a table for two in a romantic-ass restaurant while a love song plays on soft piano, and it pans out to beautiful, landscape shots of a park. Like, tell me, if they're not in love, who the fuck made these decisions?
Because it's like, it is so frustrating to me, because it's like, I just know in my soul that if one of them was a girl, this would not be up for debate.
No. If one of them was a girl, everyone would just, be like, yeah, they're in love 100%. They've been married for the last 6,000 years.
And it's like, people are kind of already like that anyway. But it's like,
there wouldn't even be a hint of doubt in my mind if one of them was a woman. And it sucks because it's like, that shouldn't make a difference, but there's always, things where it's like, where
it's like, is it not supposed to be this way?
Is it not you get stuff like this so rarely. We're gonna get more now, but, again, the book was written in, the 90s, and and the people that, made the show also wrote the book, so
yeah.
It's, it's gonna be a pretty truthful adaptation. So it's like, is this supposed to be seen this way? You get it so rarely that
it's
you
like,
almost don't believe it.
And then, there's that
unless
whole
it's
issue
very
of,
expressed.
Of, queer baiting, where it's like, people hint at it, but then they're like, no, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so annoying, because it's like, It's especially annoying because it's like sometimes like things can be like if you're writing like a straight relationship, then you can like be kind of subtle, which like most of the time you aren't. Romantic subplots are 9 times out of 10 just shoved so aggressively down your throat.
Yeah,
So
but you
it's
can
like-
at least start out pretty subtle.
And you can, and like one of our favorite shows, Princess Tutu, it's like, you know, Fakir and Duck, they never have like a big dramatic like kiss scene or anything, or like a big dramatic like
I love you scene or
No,
anything, but it's just kind of accepted that they love each other because
you can tell.
Because you can
And
tell.
I really like that, and it's like you couldn't like do, but like it's just very like subtle and it's very like understated. It's a very like understated romance, and I think that can like work really well.
It comes across as really sweet to me because it's like they don't even need to say it. It's just obvious.
But it's like you can't like do that with like a gay couple because it's like then no one. Like, even people who, like, want it to be a thing won't be sure if it's a thing. And
Like-
then there will always be people who are like, now.
Yeah, it's like there are gonna be people who don't want them to be gay who are gonna be like, no! And then there are gonna be people who do want them to be gay that are always gonna be in doubt about it because we never get enough representation. And then even when we do, it's never understated because
Like-
it can't be.
It's like you have to, like, to make sure people get it. You, like, basically have to, like, shove it down their throat.
Like, it's basically heteronormativity sucks. And then it's also a thing where it's like, you know, we don't really get many depictions in media of, like, 2 guys that are really, really good friends. And, like, you know, do things that really, like, best friends do and are, like, emotionally, like, dependent on one another, the way that everyone writes female friendships, because that's what friendships are. So it's like, so it's like, when you see stuff like that, you're like, am I reading too much into this, or am I just not used to seeing guys be friends? And so I'm like, you know, I'm reading too much into it, but it's like, there's no way.
Because again, it's not just like dialogue where it's like that could be platonic, but like it could also be romantic. Like it's like a musical cues, which again, like not to keep bringing up Sherlock, it's just a good comparison for like a similar kind of situation, like with the fandom. Like you don't get that in Sherlock, and that's a show where it's like they explicitly say all the time, like a million times they've been like, no, they're not in love, it's not a thing. So it's like in like they had a really good friendship. I really like that about Sherlock.
We have a really good friendship.
We need more representation of like good male friendships.
We do.
But Aziraphale and Crowley aren't one of them.
They're not that. They are husbands.
And it's like, which is fine because we also need more gay representations.
We need more of both.
Yeah.
Not every story has to, like, be both.
Yeah. We can have both, and we need more of both.
Yeah. It's just, like, it sucks that I'm not sure about it, because it's like, I am sure about it. There's absolutely no convincing me otherwise. But I'm like, it sucks that I'm afraid that I'll be wrong.
Yeah, because it's like, again, if one of them was a girl, this would not be up for debate.
It wouldn't.
And that's so annoying.
It's so annoying, but I think they have a great dynamic. I think they have a great friendship. I think they have a great romance. I think everything about it is great, and I would die for them.
Anyway, that's all.
That's all we had to say. You know. Yeah, basically it's a really good show. I love Crowley and Aziraphale a lot. We stan. Ineffable husbands. Goodbye.